Before we start, please note, I am not an opera expert, nor do I claim to be a music expert. This is all just an observation and mine alone. I may sound like I know more about opera, but I don't. I am just basing my observations off what I learned and what I know. One more thing, all my observations are based on one video of the opera with a link in the description. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hey there! Hey there! Hey there! Hey there! Oh, hey there! Hello, my name is Adam, and today I will be talking about an opera. Okay, so the Fliegende Hollander, or the Flying Dutchman in English, is a German opera by Richard Wagner. It is inspired by the folklore of the Flying Dutchman, the Norwegian or Germanic folklore. Uh, a man is cursed by God to sail the seas for eternity. The opera goes on a different approach, though. Richard Wagner's version of Flying Dutchman. Uh, every 7 years, the Dutchman can break his curse, but if he finds a woman faithful to him unto death, and only then can he pass on to heaven. In this video, I will analyze the key scenes and observe and relay my observations relating to the singing and the acting in the opera, in the theatrical, dramatical, and expression side. So, before we get into that, let's have a small summary. So, summary goes as follows. Captain Durant and his crew encounter a mysterious ship. Little did they know it was the Flying Dutchman. The Dutchman and Captain Durant have a conversation which eventually ends into Captain Durant selling his or giving up his daughter's hand in marriage for a ship full of treasures and precious stones. And the Dutchman and the daughter finally meet, come to find out that the daughter's name is Senta. Senta, she knew about the Dutchman's curse, and she is willing to be faithful to him unto death and lift his curse. She knew about the curse, and regardless, she loves him. Later, we find out that Senta has an ex-boyfriend, and the ex-boyfriend and Senta have a conversation about the ex-boyfriend thinking that Senta belonged to him and is betrothed to him, and he hugs her, hoping that she can take him back. The Dutchman overhears and sees this warm embrace and decides to leave because he's not going to marry a taken woman. But actually, Senta is not betrothed to her ex-boyfriend. They broke up and the ex-boyfriend wanted her back. Now, Senta finds out that the Dutchman is gonna leave, and in a final attempt to show her faithfulness, she jumps off a cliff, plummets into the ocean, dies, and technically she fulfills the requirement of faithful unto death, and the Dutchman, is released and is freed and is passed on to heaven. Orangina. That was the summary. But enough of the story, let's analyze. So, in the opera, in the video that I provided in the description below, 24 minutes into the first act, and you can find that the Dutchman is talking about his curse and how he struggled with finding a way to kill himself and to die at sea. Here is a clip in Act 1.
Des Mirs barbarischer Sohl schlägt bang das Kreuz und flieht davon. Wie oft in Meerestiefel knallt, spür sich voll Sehnsucht mich wieder. Alle Schiffe voll Quadrat, trieb mein Schiff in komplette Grund.
Now, 45 seconds into that, and we find him singing in a very deep voice, very loudly. So loud that the instruments were barely audible compared to his voice or at the same level. Now, this is very interesting because it is very hard and is very challenging in an opera for the singer to sing very loud and still have the same tone or a deep voice. Now, scientifically, let's delve into science part of things. In science, a high pitch sound has more power than a low pitch, meaning that in a short distance, a high pitch overpowers the low pitch. But there's a catch. The advantage that the low pitch sound has is that low pitch can travel very far. So if a singer would sing in a high pitch, he or she or they will need support from external sources or will have a voice loud enough so that the entire theater can hear. Now this does happen and there are people who are talented enough to pull this off, but that's not very possible for the average human. Now the actor for the Dutchman, it has an advantage. He sings in a really deep voice, and with his deep voice he can sing in loud volumes on par with the instrument and music in the background. Now I'm not sure, but maybe the music was toned down a bit so that the singing of the Dutchman was audible. But regardless, it is very impressive that the Dutchman sang this loud and still maintain a low pitch. Anyways, the Dutchman singing, okay, matches his facial expressions. In this scene, he was talking about finding a way to die, but still not dying because of his curse. Now, obviously, this calls for frustration and desperation. Adjusting his mouth and making facial expressions, he can show this frustration and convey this emotion. And he has tried everything to die, but regardless, nothing works. And so he feels the frustration, and you can feel the frustration in the singing and see it in his eyes and see it in his face. You should really try Orangina. Moving on to Act 2. We have Senta telling the story of the Flying Dutchman to the ladies around her. About an hour into the play and 30 minutes later, she sort of drifts away, still retelling the story, but also she's imagining and thinking and dreaming of being the one to lift his curse. Now here's the clip. Now, her beautiful singing and her emotional expressions of dreaming of love and being the one to set a phantom free, a ghost of the sea, was very apparent in her actions, and her face and her singing is very depicted. Now, the music is barely audible, and you notice that, making her singing about the only thing that you hear, which also makes it more powerful. And with minor support from the orchestra, this sends a really powerful image into the listener's mind. So you can see the emotion in her eyes, you can hear the love or the dreaminess in her voice, and you can see that she was actually thinking about the scenario. Everything is in harmony. From, like I said, the facial expressions, the singing, the body language is all in harmony. Fast forward from where we last off 9 minutes, and we'll see her ex-boyfriend come in, singing about getting Senta back.
Augenblick, aus meinen Qualen reiße mich, doch willst du, ach, so verdirbt mich ganz.
Was ist, was soll?
Was sind das sprich, was aus dir dienen soll? Der Pate kommt, der wie er verreist, wird er vollbringen, was schon oft er wollte.
Und was meinst du?
Die deinen Gatten geben. Mein Herz voll Treue bis zum Sterben, mein dürftig Gut, mein Jägerglück, gar zum deine Hand ich werben, stieß mich dein Vater nicht zurück. Wenn dann mein Herz in Jammer bricht, sag Senta, wer dann für mich spricht. Wenn dann mein Herz
He's basically playing the victim by acting love hurt and trying to manipulate Senta to get her back. Senta, she's saying, "So what? Well, what can I do about this? I can't really help you without getting back with you, and I don't want to get back to you." And this emotion complex is very hard to pull off, and is something that the actor of the ex-boyfriend does very well. So to pull this off, to show the depiction of the singing and the scenario, you have to convey the emotion of, you need to show the worry, the sadness, the desperation, and just a minor hint of malice. And you can really see this from his singing to his body language to his facial expression. Now, the actor plays this role very well. And what I mean by that is that it is as if he actually feels those emotions and went through this sort of thing before in real life. The actor, I mean. Not to mention his singing. His facial expressions show one thing. His facial expressions are very serious, very, very desperate. But his singing, it demands attention and it demands authority. It's basically telling you Look, this is what you did to me. I want it fixed. And this resembles a victimhood and desperation. And let's move on to his body language. His body language also adds more to the dramatical and theatrical side of acting, keeping his shoulders stiff and flailing his arms and showing and basically making her feel what he feels and the frustration that he's experiencing. That when she left him, he she really left him heartbroken, and it shows that he needs attending to or needs a show of affection. He was reaching to touch her, and then hesitates, and then pulls away, and then walks away. But then he thinks about it and comes back and continues, and coming back stronger than ever with even more serious, uh, even more serious tone. You can really see that and hear that. You can notice the change. Okay. Yep. This video is getting too long for your attention span. So, let's just end it here. I strongly urge you to go ahead and watch the Fliegende Hollander, the Flying Dutchman. It is an amazing experience if you can watch it live. And you also can pay attention to the drama, to the theatrical side of things. You can notice the props and the acting and the facial expressions and the body language. You can notice all those things, not only the singing and the music, because opera ultimately combines play, the theater, acting with music, with acting and music being very, very strongly linked into the opera, basically defining what opera is in the Romantic period. So maybe if you're interested in operas or not interested at all, you can probably give it a try, and not only think of it as, oh, they're just singing very boringly and singing very, very long and loud, and it takes too long to. Maybe you not need to only focus on that, because opera has many aspects: the props, the singing, the acting, the dancing, the the props, the scenery, the story. Many parts are incorporated into an opera and is very finely tuned. Thank you. This is Adam, signing off. What are you still doing here? Go away.